In the modern world, wars are not always fought with tanks, guns, and missiles. Some of the most decisive battles are happening quietly, hidden beneath the Earth's surface. Imagine this: your smartphone, your electric car. Even the defense systems that protect nations all rely on a handful of rare minerals buried deep underground. Now, picture two of the world's greatest superpowers, America and China, knocked in a high-stakes contest to control these resources. This isn't just about mining rocks. It's about who controls the future of technology, energy, and even national security. For decades, China has dominated the global supply of these critical minerals. From cobalt processing to rare earth refining, they've built a supply chain so powerful that the rest of the world depends on them. America, on the other hand, finds itself caught in a dangerous position. The very technologies that could secure its future are built on materials largely processed by its biggest rival. The question that lingers is, chilling, what happens if Beijing decides to cut off that supply? This is the heart of the new battleground. Not in the skies, not on the seas, but in the mines, factories, and laboratories shaping tomorrow. It's a fight where strategy, innovation, and global alliances matter as much as sheer economic power. And the stakes? Nothing less than who will control the 21st century. Would the United States rise to challenge China's dominance, or has the game already been decided? That's the story we're about to uncover. To truly understand this new battle, we have to step back and look at what critical minerals really are. These aren't just ordinary metals like iron or copper. They are rare, specialized elements, lithium, cobalt, and rare earths like neodymium that power the engines of modern civilization. Without them, wind turbines couldn't spin, electric cars wouldn't run, and advanced fighter jets would simply not exist. They are, quite literally, the building blocks of the future. Now, here's where things get interesting. The United States once had its own thriving mining industry for these resources, especially during the Cold War. But over the years, environmental concerns, high production costs, and globalization pushed America to step back. Slowly, almost silently, China filled the gap. By the 1990s and early 2000s, China wasn't just producing more minerals, it was refining them on a massive scale, building a near monopoly on the supply chain. Today, China controls over 80% of the global rare earth processing market. That means even if minerals are mined in Australia, Africa, or the United States, they often still need to be shipped to China to be refined before becoming useful. It's a strategic chokehold that gives Beijing enormous influence. And while the average consumer may not think twice about what powers their phone or their electric car, policymakers in Washington see it as a glaring national security risk. Because here's the truth: whoever controls these minerals controls the pace of innovation. And in a world racing toward renewable energy and high-tech defense, that control could shape the balance of power for generations. The alarm bells in Washington didn't ring overnight. The wake-up call came in 2010, when China briefly cut off rare earth exports to Japan during a territorial dispute. That single move rattled governments worldwide, showing just how much leverage Beijing held. Suddenly, what seemed like a technical faraway issue became a matter of national security. If China could choke Japan's access to critical minerals, what would stop it from doing the same to the United States or any of its allies? Since then, US officials, think tanks, and industry leaders have scrambled to catch up. Reports poured out warning that America's dependence was a dangerous vulnerability. And for good reason. Nearly every branch of the US military relies on components made with rare earths. Fighter jets need specialized magnets. Guided missiles depend on precise sensors. Even satellites circling the Earth are packed with these materials. Without them, America's defense edge would start to crumble. But the challenge isn't just military. As the global economy shifts toward green technology, electric cars, renewable energy, advanced batteries, the demand for critical minerals is exploding. Whoever secures stable access to these resources will lead the next industrial revolution. That realization hit US policymakers hard. This was no longer just an economic race, but a battle for technological leadership in the century ahead. And so began America's push to re-enter the arena, difficult, expensive, and uncertain mission to rebuild what it had once allowed to slip away. America's comeback effort starts with an unlikely place, the dusty deserts of California. Here lies Mountain Pass, one of the only rare earth mines on US soil. Once abandoned and nearly forgotten, this mine has roared back to life, as Washington's symbol of independence from Beijing's grip. But reopening a mine is just the first step. The bigger challenge lies in processing. You can dig these minerals out of the ground, but unless you can refine them into usable form, you're still stuck relying on China. That's where the US strategy gets complicated. Mining is messy, costly, and politically controversial. Local communities worry about environmental damage, while companies face huge expenses to compete with China's cheaper operations. Unlike Beijing, which subsidizes its industry heavily, American miners must convince investors that critical minerals can be both profitable and strategic. It's a balancing act between national security and economic reality. To close the gap, the US isn't just looking inward, it's building alliances. Australia, Canada, and even some African nations rich in minerals are suddenly more important than ever. Joint ventures are being signed, investments are flowing, and new refining plants are being planned outside of China's orbit. The idea is simple: create an entire supply chain that bypasses Beijing's control. But here's the twist: China isn't standing still. Every step the US takes, Beijing responds with its own moves. Whether through price cuts, new technology, or locking in deals with resource-rich countries before America can. This is not just a race, it's a global chess match being played in real time. And the big question remains: can the United States rebuild fast enough to catch up? Or will China's head start prove impossible to overcome? China's dominance didn't happen by accident. It was the result of decades of planning. As far back as the 1980s, Chinese leaders identified rare earths and critical minerals as a strategic priority. They poured resources into mining, refining, and research, while the rest of the world treated these materials as niche commodities. By the time Washington realized what was happening, Beijing had already built an empire. Today, China doesn't just control the minerals, it controls the entire value chain, from extraction to refining to manufacturing the components that go into high-tech products. China has positioned itself as the indispensable middleman. This means that even if the US mines lithium in Nevada or cobalt is pulled from the ground in Congo, much of it still passes through Chinese hands. Before becoming part of a smartphone, battery, or a jet engine. But here's where the story gets even more striking. Beijing knows how to use this leverage. When global prices for rare earths spike, China has been known to flood the market with cheap supply, driving competitors out of business. When tensions rise, it has threatened to restrict exports, reminding the world just how dependent they are. It's both an economic weapon and a geopolitical shield. For America, this creates a dangerous paradox. The very rival it seeks to counter is also the supplier it cannot live without. It's like building your defenses with bricks bought from your competitor. That uneasy reality forces Washington to act, but every move is watched closely by Beijing, which has no intention of giving up its advantage without a fight. In response, Washington has started throwing serious money at the problem. The Department of Defense is investing in domestic projects, and Congress has passed legislation to support critical mineral research, mining, and refining. Billions of dollars are being funneled into initiatives designed to jumpstart an industry that nearly vanished decades ago. The message is clear: America wants to secure its own supply, no matter the cost. At the same time, US companies are racing to innovate. Instead of trying to replicate China's entire supply chain overnight, some are experimenting with new technologies, like recycling old electronics for rare earths, or developing synthetic alternatives to reduce dependency. Tesla, GM, and other automakers are also part of this push, since the future of electric vehicles depends on steady access to lithium, cobalt, and nickel. But here's the catch: building a mining and refining network takes time, sometimes decades. Environmental permits, community opposition, and sheer technical challenges all slow the process. Meanwhile, demand is rising faster than ever. For many Americans, this sparks a tough question. Are we willing to accept more mines in our backyard if it means breaking free from China's grip? This is where the battle moves beyond politics and economics. It touches everyday life. The price of your next electric car, the cost of renewable energy, even the strength of national security could hinge on how quickly the US can turn its ambitions into reality. And right now, the clock is ticking. While the US is scrambling to rebuild, China is already looking ahead to the next frontier. Beijing isn't just focused on digging minerals out of the ground, it's investing heavily in processing, advanced battery technology, and even overseas mining projects. From South America's lithium triangle in Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile, to cobalt-rich regions of Africa, Chinese firms have secured deals that give them influence far beyond their own borders. This global reach means China's dominance isn't just about what it has at home, but about how it controls supply chains abroad. Many of these partnerships come with infrastructure projects, loans, and political ties that bind resource-rich nations closer to Beijing. For smaller countries, working with China often looks easier and faster than navigating Western regulations or waiting on U.S. investment. The result? America isn't just competing with China on U.S. soil, it's competing everywhere. From dusty African mines to Andean salt flats, every negotiation feels like part of a larger struggle for influence. This is why some experts call it a new great game. But instead of oil pipelines, the prizes are lithium brines, cobalt deposits, and rare earth concentrates. For Washington, the challenge is clear. How do you counter a rival that has already built a global web of resources and partners? Winning this battle won't just depend on technology or money, it will depend on whether America can convince the world that it's a better, more reliable partner than China. The stakes couldn't be higher. Critical minerals aren't just about gadgets and cars, they're about who leads the next industrial revolution. If China keeps its grip on these resources, it could dictate the pace of global innovation. From clean energy to artificial intelligence. For the US, falling behind would mean not only losing economic ground, but also risking national security in a world where technology decides power. Yet, there's also an opening. America's strength has always been in innovation and alliances. If it can combine cutting-edge research with strong partnerships across the globe, whether in Canada, Australia, or resource-rich parts of Africa and South America, might just carve out an alternative path. The question is whether these efforts can scale quickly enough before China solidifies its hold. This is where viewers are left with a powerful thought. We're rewatching history unfold in real time. Just as oil shaped the 20th century, critical minerals are shaping the 21st. The rivalry between Washington and Beijing is more than a competition over resources. It's a contest over the future itself. So, what do you think? Can the US realistically catch up? Or has China already locked in its lead? The answer to that question could determine the balance of power for decades to come. As the dust settles on this global contest, one thing becomes crystal clear. The race for critical minerals is not a side story, it's the main stage of 21st century power. Just as coal once fueled empires and oil built superpowers, rare earths, lithium, and cobalt are now the lifeblood of modern technology and defense. Whoever controls them doesn't just shape markets, they shape the future of nations. For the United States, this is both a challenge and a chance. Breaking free from China's dominance will demand sacrifices, new mines, bold investments, and tough choices about balancing environmental concerns with national security. It won't be easy, but history shows that America has risen to similar moments before. China, meanwhile, isn't slowing down. It continues to entrench its lead, building influence through resources and alliances that reach every corner of the globe. The message is simple: Beijing intends to stay ahead. And so, the question lingers. Is this the dawn of a new Cold War, not fought with missiles, but with minerals? The answer may lie in the phones we hold, the cars we drive, and the power grids that light our cities. In the end, this battle isn't just about two countries, it's about the future of all of us.